Okay, we're streaming. Don't say anything that you wouldn't want to be said, to be heard.
Okay.
Are
I
we
will
streaming?
check the stream.
Is it live? Actually, doesn't show like it's live on my end.
I don't see a stream.
I don't see it either. But how? It's literally. Hmm. This is some suspect testing stuff. Okay, is it here now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Getting nervous. Just took your time to boot up. Boot up. Oh man, salute you. Salute to Jason Taylor.
Hey.
Okay. Hmm. Okay. And then I put this post out. Okay, quick sound check. What's the word, Ace? You sound alright?
Check. How do I sound? Do I sound okay? Too high, too low?
That sounds about right. How are you, Ghost?
Check, check, check. Check, 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 check.
That sounds appropriate. I think it's just enthusiasm that might be a bit low. And then what about me? How do I sound? Is it clear? Is it audibly acceptable?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, nice. In that case, we will start recording. Okay. Feels as there's something I'm forgetting like always, but doesn't matter. Let's just get in this thing and do another podcast. Everybody, look alive, just like Block Boy said. So recording. Okay. I'll come here and hope it looks decent. Yeah, there we are. Okay, hopefully still sounds good. Hopefully still looks acceptable. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, guys, to the Be Warned and Be Filled podcast. We're back. We're back, and we have not everyone, but we have most of the guys, the brethren, the Namaka. We had Ace.
What's up?
We got Ghost.
Yo.
And we got myself. Oops, QuestLando. Guys, how y'all doing? How y'all feeling?
Pretty good.
Decent.
You didn't say the line. And I'm doing pretty good myself. Oh, man. Another podcast. There's so much happening in the world, as always. And maybe it's just the natural nature of like election seasons, but it definitely feels like there's a lot of division in the air. So it's kind of corny, but hopefully we can come out here and be nice and we can forget all the women and men debates. You won't. You can forget about all the political stuff. You won't. You can just come out here and we can just have good old conversation. But before we actually get into the topics and the conversations, some podcast stuff to get out the way. If you are interested in the mood for new music, you can find it here. Yes, every week we uh, provide the new songs that we've heard this week that we think will be bangers. So in the description below, you can check us out or check it out. We have a Spotify playlist. And then after the podcast, once we edit things up, you'll also just be find a list of all the songs. So if you're just looking for the new artists or you're looking for new artists or new songs, point you right to them. Also, if you are someone that likes having timestamps in the videos, we also do that after the podcast. If you're just looking for a specific topic that we might have touched on, we'll have timestamps in the description below. And if you're just looking for shorter form content, because obviously, even some of us here don't like sitting through an entire podcast. We got you. We get it. So I implore everyone to go on our channel and go to the videos tab. You can find all of our topic videos, all in shorter form, just right to the point. Edited up. Yes. But yeah, now that's out the way. Before we get into the topics as well, we like to come on here if there are any, provide any content recommendations that we might have and or any warm reviews. So we'll consume if we consume content, if we've been to a movie, if we've been to a show, any experience that's worth bringing up. Do we got anything this week?
Yep, I got a warm review. I went to a concert on Tuesday night to see Winter, a band called Winter. And it was awesome. They dropped an EP earlier this year, and before that EP, I hadn't really actively listened to them that much. But that EP itself I think is great, and that was also a catalyst to start listening to their older music more. And just to give an idea, they're like a shoegaze, like indie rock type band, but their EP kind of touched into like early 2000s, late 90s pop as well. So yeah, I really like the EP, and I wasn't sure if they were going to be touring because it was only a 4-track project. But yeah, once they dropped the tour dates, I was super hype, and I think I bought the tickets pretty much immediately. This is probably one of the most anticipated concerts I went to, just for that reason. And yeah, it didn't disappoint at all. The singer was great. Like the drummer, who I wasn't sure based on the album if the drums on the EP were done like live or if it was drum machine or what. It sounds kind of like a mixture of both. But yeah, the drummer, like for the band or for the live performance, he definitely like did justice to the percussion on the EP and previous albums as well. And then yeah, I love shoegaze for the distortion and like the just washed out guitar effects, and just manipulation of basically noise. And it's always cool to see like how guitarists do perform that live as well, like seeing them interact with their amps and like get feedback out of their amps by holding the guitar in front of it and like closer and further away. It's just mad cool to see live and to hear live. And also like how variable the sound can be compared to the album as well. So yeah, I really I really liked seeing them live. And then they were actually the opener. So the band they were opening for was called
You went to see an opener band?
yeah. I wasn't familiar with the headline, and now I can't remember the headline's name at Spirit of the Beehive. Um and they're not particularly my cup of tea. They I don't know, it's hard to describe why. Like they're an indie rock band, I would say. And they do a lot of weird things with like time signatures. So it's hard to get into a groove while listening to them, especially being unfamiliar with their music. So a lot of the performance, I was I was enjoying it, but at the same time, again, it was just like hard to follow or to know what was coming next, um, or even like when a song would end or whatever. Um, but yeah, they were still dope too. So yeah, either way, it was a great night overall. Um, yeah, I would definitely look forward to seeing Winter again anyway, because yeah, they killed it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, from my experience, usually the shows you go to are typically always solid, and like it's always interesting how like the live music sounds just as good, if not better. Not maybe not, if not better, but it's just on par with the CDQ streaming. So nice, I can imagine. Was the venue pretty good too?
Yeah, I've been there twice before now, and I was actually thinking about this when I was there. Like every time I go there, it feels slightly different, and part of it is probably just where I end up standing and when I see the concert. But I don't know, just it always feels like it has a slightly different vibe. Like it could be a different place, um, but yeah, no, I've been there a couple times before.
Interesting. I wonder if that's a better thing in the context of when you're going to see different artists. But hey, man, fair enough. Dope, dope. Is there anything else that we have?
Nothing from me.
I feel as if I did see a trailer that actually kind of got me a little interested recently, but it didn't stick enough for me to be able to come on here and be like, dang, did y'all see the trailer for such and such? So I won't even waste y'all time. Anyway, fair enough. All right, then if there's nothing else, we can get right into the topics. Okay, so let me go back here for a second. My nice stock photo. Don't even take out the watermark. But we're not starting soon. Now let me come over here and do this. I think the names are out of order, so I'm gonna have to, it's like y'all every time. It's so annoying. Okay. Now, go here. Yep. So give me 1 second. This gets edited out of the videos anyway, so it doesn't even matter. So, I don't know if y'all heard about this. I might even put it back to the other screen as the gag, because like we don't need to really be seeing anything for this particular topic. But I don't know if y'all heard, and maybe I should actually have pulled up or looked for the interview where they said this. But the mind behind arguably one of the best games of all times, uh, Hidetaka Miyazaki, the legend, says he's still in the process of making his ideal fantasy RPG. So, if you don't know, you should know, Miyazaki is the mind behind Elden Ring and the Dark Souls franchise as a whole. Just it's kind of hard to describe how great of a game Elden Ring is. Of course, if you don't necessarily like the Dark Souls type of games, you might not be familiar and or appreciate Elden Ring that much. But if you do still, or if you still tapped into gaming in recent time, uh, Elden Ring is pretty much the top tier game. It's like it's there hasn't been a game with that level of challenge, but still has a high desirability to beat it and overcome it in a long time. Obviously, you got to give salute to like the Castanets, have blew it up even greater, and all the speedrunners, all the people that do these weird challenges, yeah, Elden Ring is the tippity top of great gaming, and it's arguably one of the greatest games of all times. But even with me gassing it up this much, if you can believe it, again, the guy behind it is quoted by saying, "Well, Elden Ring is not quite it. It's getting close." And this quote is even more interesting in the grand scheme of like when you're looking at the Dark Souls games, like Demon Souls when that first came out, that was a banger. The Dark Souls franchise, even though some of those aren't looked at as favorably as like the first one. Sekiro, which is like a samurai version of the Dark Soul games. Bloodborne, which is a lot of people's actually low key favorite one. Like the type of games that this brother has been a part of, and their companies, like these are like considered some of the best games of all times, if you know. And Elden Ring is the latest incarnation of these types of games, and arguably the best. Like again that level of challenge, but that level of like once you start Elden Ring, even though you get frustrated, and even though you come across a boss you can't beat and you end up dying hundreds of times, you still just have that desire to beat it. But according to him, he's still on his path to making that perfect game, which is crazy. Because and I don't want to like gas up Elden Ring all night. But again, if you know, like, it's also the scale of it, the level of customization. Like, like there's probably no individual run of Elden Ring that looks exactly the same. It's such an immense game, but this brother still feels like they haven't made that perfect game. And obviously, Elden Ring is not perfect, but it's apparently they still have more to do. And that while this quote and this it could be a topic in itself, because like if you know Elden Ring, it's kind of like, what do y'all think of the fact that they made this great creation, but they still are not content and they still want to create something even bigger and better. But I was talking to y'all not too long ago about something, and it's like one of the most basic questions ever. But I guess I don't inherently know what y'all would come up with. But hearing this, the fact that there's this legendary game designer is still on their path to making their ideal game, I'm curious to know if y'all were a game dev, the game developer in this day and age, y'all had the full right and behind the wheel of making a whole game. I'm curious to know what type of game y'all would make, and really get into the mind of a game dev, like not just a game that I mean, obviously you have to be the first and foremost fan of your creation, but like a game that you think would do well, uh and would attract people that might not be you know super fans of that type of game and or games in general. Like I'm curious to know what type of game y'all would make it, what would be unique about it. And I'll be honest, I come on here and shit on game devs all the time because I think games these days are hella whack. So I'm here. I'm definitely curious to know. See if I would hop on, if I would be putting hours into y'all games. So I usually just pick, but is anyone in particular off the bat know what type of game they'd make?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay, let me hear it.
Like I gotta pitch it.
Yeah,
Wait,
basically.
yeah. We should do this from perspective. Like we're the money behind the project, and you gotta pitch it to us. And if it's trash, we'll tell you, nah,
We
that
don't gotta
ain't
we
it.
don't gotta do the whole song and dance. I'm looking at it from more so from a fan perspective, but I'm hella curious to know if I'm gonna be buying this game or saying, damn, this game dev sucks.
Right. Yeah, no, so I'm glad that this is coming from, or this is triggered by um Miyazaki's comment, because if it was if it was just some like big, Ubisoft or something like that saying they haven't made the greatest game yet, I think it would be different, because Miyazaki, like you were saying, he has, him and his team have created some of arguably the greatest games of all time, and
Mm-hmm.
um for him to say that he still hasn't created like the best one, I get the impression that he's definitely not doing it for just money, or just to keep just to, I mean, maybe he does want to keep going for as long as he can, um, but there's a drive behind it more than just to keep the franchise going or whatever. And that's something I've been
They want to make
curious
that
about because like
masterpiece.
yeah, and like obviously you have long-standing franchises you could compare to the Souls franchise, like say Assassin's Creed, where it's like with that franchise versus a Dark Souls, even though you could say, well, how much of a difference has there been if you really look at it from Dark Souls to Dark Souls 3 or even if you include Elden Ring, um there is a conversation to be had there, but at the same time, um I think it's much easier to argue or to concede that the evolution in that series is due to like a drive to make a better game, a better franchise or something more close to the heart of the developer than just to be a cash grab or just to keep going on and on.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, with that in mind, like the game that I would make, it would have to be like I tried to think of it in terms of okay, what do I think would sell the best, and could I make like is there a game that I could make that would I think would sell the best that doesn't necessarily isn't necessarily like my favorite genre or whatever. I don't know if it would be possible for me to even attempt to do something like that. Like for example,
I mean, it
I
doesn't have to be
think
the highest selling game of the year, but it has to generate interest.
yeah, I got you. And yeah, I was just thinking like if I was to look at the probably the most obvious genres right now for popularity, maybe it would be like I don't know, like going for a hero shooter or something like that. Um, but yeah, I couldn't I couldn't do it unless it was something that I would actually want to play as well. So I think I would make a character action game. Um,
Okay.
Thinking, DMC or Devil May Cry or Bayonetta esque, but and just for the reasoning, um, to me, like that is my favorite genre because it is like the ideal version of being able to play, like to basically play a game that feels similar to watching like an anime fight scene or cut uh
Now you're getting my
yeah,
attention.
fight sequence or anything like that. What are you gonna say?
No, I just said now you're getting my attention.
Okay. Um, yeah. So, like, I think even though a lot of people may not be familiar with the genre or, yeah, kind of, I don't know, dismiss it as being, just like a button mash type game or, just a regular like hack and slash. Um, the depth of those games, I think, gives it can give it an inherent like longevity that just a typical button masher hack and slash type joint it, it it can't really have because just the replayability the I don't think it has longevity without that complexity um
You'd want
and
a whole new IP, or would you want to use something existing?
I would probably want to use an existing IP that
Okay.
doesn't have like its own I mean obviously game or like even even a movie or a TV series or anything like that. So I'm thinking
Hmm.
there's a lot of fantasy that hasn't been explored. Um in particular, the one that comes to my mind is the Mistborn series. I think there could be a
Okay.
really great
Here he goes.
character action game in the Mistborn series. So you have, I mean, you have like a very well thought out magic system that is unique. And I mean, while things like flight or force type abilities are, they can be like similar. At the same time, it has a distinctness where because the rules are so well thought out, I think it can lend itself to um like being separate from just saying, oh, this is just another um I don't know, like Star Wars esque or sorcery esque type thing. Um, so yeah, that's like uh I think that's the franchise I would want to go for. And um I don't know if I have much more in terms of like development
No, that's good.
ideas,
I guess like the
but
last thing is like, what do you think? What do you think makes what do you say would make it like unique, or does it have a lot of similarities to the existing games in that type of in that type of genre? You would just be your own paint and spin on it.
I think it would be my own spin. I would probably, and it's hard for me to say like I would be able to come in and create something that is completely like groundbreaking in the character action genre, because I mean, number one, I don't develop video games for a living, so I don't know like if I had experience in the genre to say, okay, I've made this character action game, it's great, it follows the formula perfectly, then I would know, then I could have the confidence to break that and say, okay, now let's try to tweak this or that and see if it still works, like if it still has the DNA of character action and it still works and still has the what do you call it, the replayability. So I think if I was to make a game, it would be I would almost try to like take everything from the best games in the franchise um
Hmm.
that that I know work, and just put it into, or take the IP of Mistborn and put that onto that skin onto the genre basically. Um and then maybe I could get to the point where I'm Miyazaki and I'm thinking, okay, now how can I make this 100% like exactly what like I love about the genre um without diluting it, or um again, like losing that replayability or anything like that.
Gotcha,
DNA.
gotcha. And not to get too into the weeds of it, like where it's like someone's writing these notes down. What comes to your mind in terms of extensions of the game? Do you think you'd want to make just one creation and be done with it? Do you think you go DLC route? Do you think you'd make sequels of the game? What comes to your mind?
Um, I think I would just do one game and maybe DLC. Um, I don't, and this is actually a really good point, because with um with a franchise like Mistborn, you kind of do have the option to, or you at least have to consider whether you're gonna follow the stories or make a new story within, like, just within the world. Um and yeah, I don't know. I'd probably, like, in an ideal world, work with the author Brandon Sanderson to do a new, like,
Damn,
story
someone's
within
definitely
that
gonna take this
franchise.
idea.
Yeah,
Fair enough. Fair
and then
enough.
any DLC would come from, like, his ideas as well, like in terms of story and stuff like that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Any questions come to your mind, Ghost?
Um, I have some like non non-specific questions about like the model of pricing, which is like really not what we're not important. I guess one question I do
Yeah.
have is like the gameplay loop specifically.
Hmm.
Obviously, we don't have to get into the details of something that doesn't exist, but
Hey man, we're ready
because
for
you,
content.
yeah, I know you focus more so on like the just the conceptually and the inspiration, I guess, or the IP for taking Mistborn
Yeah.
as a kind of template, but besides just being like a general action, I can't remember the exact phrase you used.
Character action.
Say it again.
Character action.
Besides just being like a general character action game, do you have any like specific features or traits like multiplayer or anything like that, or would it just be kind of like single player? I'm not super familiar with like the genre as a whole. Besides, you fight
Yeah,
things and
yeah.
kill it.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And do
No, I mean
combos.
just like as a super brief explanation of the genre, it it like came from or extends from like the 2D beat 'em up type games. Like if you remember the 2D Ninja Turtles, where it's like a side scroller, and
Yeah,
you're
those are great.
like the screen scrolls, enemies come in, you beat them up, and then you progress. It's very similar. It's like it would be linear in that way. It's just, I mean, I would do a 3D version, a la DMC or Bayonetta, but it's like the gameplay loop is that same idea, and the replayability factor comes from, um, I mean, with character action, it's mostly trying to get the best score, um, get the best score in those like very linear uh um, fight interactions or whatever you want to call it. Um, and so the scoring system, while it may seem innocuous, is important because it has to like you want it to encourage gameplay that like basically looks cool. So you want it to encourage people to use more combos, to use varied combos, to use like weapons if the I mean most character action games do have like various weapons as well. Um and like not cheese, so not give the person too much time to complete a fight, like things like that. And yeah, just encourage like higher level gameplay, and obviously make the game or make the game the combat such that there is a high skill ceiling, that it feels fun, feels rewarding, but feels challenging when you're playing the game. That's like where the worth comes out of it for me. And I do think multiplayer is something that is possible. Like it has been done in the genre. um I don't know if it's something I would particularly focus on, because it would add a significant level of complexity to, like, again, like juggling that, like, that scoring system and everything that goes along with it, um with including another player, and obviously the potential for lag and things like that, like rollback, and having to
Yeah, to be
consider all
honest,
that.
the
um
type of game he's describing me just really isn't meant to be multiplayer. To be honest, it just is what it is.
yeah, maybe somebody could do that in the future for sure, but um I wouldn't go for it, I don't think, off rip.
Gotcha.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, yeah. Based off what I know, what you like in your games, that makes sense to me. And the fact that you like thought of like the type of IP you like to put to it, that I check it out. All right, Ghosts. You are a game dev. What are you making?
Well, I, to start, like you gave the qualification that it shouldn't be just something that we would want to play, but like I'm most I just
To make
mostly
a
gonna be
profit.
something that I want to play because yeah, I get it, but I just can't envision myself putting in the effort and time into something that like if I really want to get soulless with it and just something that I know people would buy
You don't think
that I
you
would
don't think there's a
enjoy.
compromise between you don't think the compromise between something that can make a profit and something that you would like that doesn't exist in this world?
There is. I just don't. I don't feel like putting in the complexity of thought that it would require to balance that. So this is gonna be a game that I would mostly just want to play myself, and I guess there are some elements that I think could be incorporated that might be from like a game developer aspect of profitability, but that's not my focus. But
Fair enough,
as
as long as you don't ignore it completely.
for the game itself, I am a super big fan of Halo, and one of the modes in particular that I love and will always really enjoy is Firefight, which is essentially just you and or teammates fighting waves and hordes of enemies. And it's a
Yeah.
fairly simple gameplay loop, but it's super fun. And for each different run and iteration, even though it's kind of follows the same format, there's still variety in it and different levels of randomness, whether it's enemies or um, branch into some other games like weapon drops or item drops that introduce a level of variability that I really like, which is part of the reason why I like the game. Risk of Rain, I've been playing with Ace. So it would probably be something along those lines, and where I think it would be a little different from just like a blanket Halo copy is there would be very little focus on the actual story and uh, like single player aspect. It would be almost completely dedicated to that simple gameplay loop of fighting enemies over and over.
Oh, a little bit
No
closer to Helldivers
overt.
then.
Yeah, like pretty close to Helldivers conceptually. I haven't played it, but it does seem like something I would enjoy. But it's not really an overarching narrative that's going to be gone into in any great depth. Just bare bones to give us a backbone of how the game is or the game setting. And it would be very team based, where a lot of the strategies and items, weapons are related to teammate synergy and pairing the fighting gameplay loop with that and creating different combinations of like if your teammate's going for a specific type of build or archetype, then your specific builds can integrate with theirs in some ways. Um, but yeah, I mean, it would be very, I don't want to say rudimentary, but it's kind of simple. Like it wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
anything super complex or in depth. Is the goal of the game is to kill shit and do it well. I mean, there'd obviously be like leaderboards. Competitively, I mean, you could introduce some levels or some aspects of like if you're competing with another team to fight the same enemies, maybe like they start in one area of level or world and you start in the other, and then you continuously fight kind of the same enemies, but you're also working or competing with the other team. So it doesn't need to like a fully realized multiplayer or anything like that, but just something to introduce some level of competitiveness and beating people, because that's also something I really like in games. So that'd
Say
be
duh.
generally what my game would like the concept would be like, and then like from a developer aspect and all that. I mean, a simple gameplay loop as Helldiver Showcase can be very effective, and like to make money. I mean, sell all sorts of skins, and you wouldn't necessarily need to like have pay to win items or characters or weapons, but there could be some element of that, like a different variation of a weapon that's also there for other free to play players. Could be something you implement. But yeah, I mean, honestly, that's pretty much it. Like it wouldn't be anything
I asked this with
really
Ace, but
groundbreaking.
are you
But
thinking are you thinking you'd have original IP, or do you think it'd make more sense to borrow off of something?
um,
And specifically with something like you're describing, I don't know if you got this far getting it, but do you think it would follow like a Halo type of thing where you're fighting aliens, quote unquote, or could you even see it as like zombies or some other type of invading force?
I think for this type of game, since again it's not really like a complex narrative structure, an original IP would kind of be the direction I go because if we're using something else as a reference, I mean we're not really going to be incorporating the lore or the background of the characters and all that into it. So it's just I don't want to say you could slap any random IP on it, but it wouldn't really make a difference or it wouldn't be a huge distinction. That's just my thoughts on it. What was the second part of your question? Sorry, I forgot.
No, I just want you kind of answered, but I was wondering if you would follow more of like a Halo and make it like it's not like since you're fighting a
Oh,
hordes
the
of an
type of
enemy,
enemies, yeah.
would it be like an alien, zombie, some other type of invading force, mutants? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I, it kind of wouldn't matter. It would probably be something along the lines of aliens, similar to Halo, where there's completely different species, and that makes fighting them much different or very varied and different. It's not just like the same cookie cutter aliens over and over. There's different types of enemies you fight, and based on the enemies, could affect the item drops, the weapon drops that you get. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, probably aliens.
Got you. And we've all played firefight type games before, and we know like the difficulty that can come with some of those type of games. Do you think your game would be like generically like pretty difficult, or do you think you'd have a level curve for every type of player? Like you put on easy and you could blaze through it, or you could put on legendary and you damn near can't beat it.
I think with the format of the game I have in mind, it would actually it I don't want to say it wouldn't matter, but in my mind this game wouldn't have an end where it's like one final boss that you defeat. It's just fighting different types of varied enemies in different environments, but the difficulty does ramp up dramatically as you go on. And again, this is kind of similar to Risk of Rain, but there are bosses you can defeat along the way, and I guess technically you can end the game in Risk of Rain at least. But if you loop your gameplay session and you can kind of start over at the first level, but it just ratchets it up in difficulty, that would kind of be along the lines of the format I would go for, like almost like an endless runner where you start off it's easy, then as you keep going, it gets harder and harder. It it'd be
Got you,
like that,
got you,
but just different type of game.
got you. Fair enough, fair enough. Hmm. Oh yeah, any other questions that you think you have, Ace?
No, not really. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Even down to like the limited to no real story. Like, I've been kind of thinking about that with games too, especially games I like. Um, like even a Bayonetta or whatever. I've I've played hours and hours and hours of that game, but you only really experience the story once, and after that, it's like All right, cool. It doesn't really like it doesn't really register after that. Like you're skipping
Yeah.
cutscenes, you're just going straight to the
If
combat.
we're being
So
honest, even though Halo's my favorite game of all time, I've watched less than half the cutscenes. Like I skipped the
that's
mostly.
wild.
I haven't played Halo Reach for more than 10 years, and I've watched like maybe a third of the
That's
cutscenes
wild.
front to finish. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't
Like
matter.
when I was younger, I think it mattered more. But now it's like I'm just starting to realize that I'm playing a game. I want to play a game. Like so, it makes sense to me that cutting out the story, you're making a game, so give them a game. um, but yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. It's this is making me want to develop some games, and because even that, like I was saying, how I couldn't do something that I'm passionate. I mean, that I'm not like super passionate about or wouldn't want to play. Um, but I could see myself wanting to play that and um and having fun with the development process. So
Hmm. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I definitely check it out, and it definitely seems like thing I would definitely at least watch other people play and see how far they can get. Um. Okay. Okay. And last but not least, as y'all may or may not know, when it comes to my favorite type of game, that I would have to say that's fighting. Um, the only thing, spoiler alert, I in the same vein, I already believe that like the ideal fighting games already exist. Like between Street Fighter, Smash Brothers, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, anime fighting games. There's really nothing more you could do. So scrap that. Um, I also, I do enjoy the Dark Souls type games, but I'm not trying to compete with Miyazaki out here. Yeah, it's kind of a sleeper pick, but um, and I guess it would be worth saying like the where my mind goes to first and foremost when making a game. So we're fake old, so we're very used to playing multiplayer games locally. I'm talking local co-op. That's the era we come from. Like yeah, the days where you can just sit down in one room with your homeboys or homegirls and like map out y'all plays. That's what I yearn for. And specifically, I don't know if you recall. I mean, you definitely recall Ace, but when we played, ironically, that Lord of the Rings RPG game, that was one of my favorite experience in video gaming with y'all. And yeah, I definitely want that feeling. So I would, unironically, make an RPG, definitely first and foremost. Um, I think the thing that I may haven't solidified in my mind is whether it be like fully turn based. I think that's a mechanic that's a bit outdated unless you're like want a niche sect of folks to be into it. So I think one of the best renditions, that's not really the word, ways in which you make a game like that is the Baldur's Gate series, especially like that new one, or that latest one rather, Baldur's Gate 3. I think that type of game is what I would vie for. Still hella RPG, but I think it's a bit more free. You don't necessarily have. It's not. You're not sitting there, like waiting for everybody to make the respective move. But it still has a heavy RPG element. And I mean, yeah, that's the best. That's the basis of the game. Um, I also would like to incorporate some elements of like a Mass Effect in there. A Mass Effect. I don't know how many people are aware like my love for Mass Effect, but this is Mass Effect games in general. I think doing a story that's obviously not the greatest, but just as good as a Mass Effect type story. Um, uh, Even though you start off with your group of people, you meet other type of characters along the way that you could swap in and out. And yeah, just again, it being primarily focused on like, cause I remember specifically like when we're fighting off some of these enemies and fighting off some of these bosses, we literally have to work together. Like, hey, no, you can't do whatever you want. Hey, no, you have to heal me. I'm like, I'm getting kind of weak. No, you can't do your special attack. No, hit him. But then the other guy, but then your other teammates, no, but this guy, he's gonna do his move. So I gotta focus on him, and that. interactive back and forth that you can get into, I think that would make for the best type of for the gameplay. So yeah, it would definitely fully allow for local. I was thinking about this while you guys were talking. Not that you guys mentioned anything to the effect, but I know like having game files and having runs is like a big thing these days. You'd get 3 bare minimum. You can do a game. You can do a solo run by yourself, and you can just use NPCs for your team, or you would control them, or you can put it on AI mode. You can have your local co-op mode where you literally have folks like just playing locally, or you could do like an online setup where you can have people going to hop into your party or whatever and do a story that way. So that's how it worked out. And as far as like the setting of things, for these type of games, they usually do go like full fantasy, and that would I guess do I don't know I don't know what specifically I have it fully in mind. I think some level of fantasy, but also not heavy, not full of Lord, not full Lord of the Rings. Maybe have a bit of like a modern setting, really. And this is only a reference that only a few people would get, but I definitely would like to have class systems like Little Fighters, Little Fighters 2, I think to be exact. Um, but yeah, I don't think another full fantasy game is what comes to my mind. So yeah, I think that's the grand scheme of the type of game that I would want to make. And as far as like the extending of the game, you definitely while there could potentially be some like I think you mentioned the kind of like skins that you might be able to get or weapons you might be able to get. I don't want no microtransactions. We want as little as possible. Like we might not even do any DLC. If we make another one, it is going to be a whole separate game. That kind of expands on to the story or the narrative or the other characters and things of that nature. But you're not getting once you buy the game, you pretty much got the game. That's one of the big things to focus on. But yeah, I think I think that's what comes to my mind. RPG, heavy focus. I mean, obviously you can do it solo, but heavy focus on collaboration. That's what type of game I'd make in this day and age. And yeah, again, if you like, or if you're hip to the Baldur's Gate type joints, it'd be akin to that, but not as heavy in the fantasy area.
Makes sense. So yeah, we all named pretty much passion projects, like stuff that we would actually really want to play. Makes
Very much
sense.
so. Although, I would still be going for Game of the Year, just to be clear. But yeah, and I probably should have said this in the beginning because people typically focus on the beginning of videos. But all that jazz of like, I'm interested to know what people, if you were making your own video game, definitely let us know in the comments. I'd be super interested to know. But if nothing else, we can move on to the next topic.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Everything straight?
I think we lost Quest.
Oh,
Or we might have to step away for a second.
Y'all didn't lose anything. Knock it off. Okay. Sorry. I just I just put the screen. I just put the screen on. Be right back. And go here. Nice. Everything's where it should be. Okay. Back to the real world. No more fantasy. So, in case you missed it, this happened like a hell of a while ago. So this might either be fully implemented or maybe people are revolted against this. So, in this economy, whenever I see some people flaunting wealth and they don't really got it. My first thing on my mind is in this economy. It's really people. Everybody's penny pinching. Everybody is, being a bit stingy. Everybody's making sure they're counting their money. But some people got it like that, or a fake got it like that. I don't really know. But in some areas of the world, they're getting kind of tired of those who either have it like that or don't, or faking like they got like have it like that, doing that flaunting. And one area is China, which if you know how China, Chinese government works, this is not necessarily a surprise, but there's actually an example of it in the states we're gonna get to. But in case you missed it, China bans excessive displays of wealth on social media. Online influencers who flaunt their excessive wealth on Chinese social media are facing a ban as part of a crackdown from the government to regular internet policies. One famous influencer, Wang Hongque, who bragged about owning 7 properties in Beijing and claimed to never wear an outfit less than 10 million yuan, which is approximately 1.38 million. I don't know about that price, has been banned from Douyin. I hope I'm saying these things right. A Chinese version of TikTok, preventing him from interacting with his 4.3 million followers. Is there a video to this? What did they say?
Let's see.
Let's talk about social media. It comes with a set of rules like don't endorse violence or don't promote dangerous substances or fake news. But Chinese social media has some extra rules like don't show off your wealth. And this has landed 2 influencers in trouble. One of them is called China's Kim Kardashian. Their accounts have been taken down, their videos have been deleted. Basically, there is no trace of them on social media anymore. Their lavish display of wealth may have impressed their followers, but China's internet watchdog was not pleased. Our next report tells you why.
In the dazzling world of social media, influencers reign supreme. They often flaunt their opulent lifestyles, their branded bags, their luxury cars, their supercars. But how much is too much? Ask China, and they will tell you that showing off is bad. So Beijing is doing what it does best. It's cracking down.
Damn. We actually talked about a topic in the past. Forget what was the main thing, but it was regarding like the people who are like faking on social media, like they got it, like doing like acting like they're in private jets, but it's really just a set design, and whether they should ban that or at least put like what's it called, some type of a disclaimer on that. It looked like China took it one step further. And I guess we can play a little bit more of it, but I think we kind of got the point. We'll play one more thing, see if
influencers who flaunt their wealth are public enemy number 1. Like Wang Hongquan-Ching, he earned the moniker China's Kim Kardashian. Why? Because of his extravagant displays of wealth.
By the way,
Wang was a living embodiment of opulence. He once bragged that he never left home without wearing at least $1.4 million worth of jewelry and clothing. Plus, he's popular. Wang has around 4.4 million followers on platforms like Weibo, Douyin, and Xiaohongshu. And they all watched as he paraded his riches. But Wang's ostentatious lifestyle didn't sit well with everyone, especially for China's internet watchdog. They decided he needed to take a back seat. And just like that, Wang Hongquan-Ching was abruptly taken off Weibo, Douyin, and Xiaohongshu. They have banned him from showcasing his lavish lifestyle. And it's not just him. Another influencer, Bayu Jiaji.
damn. I will say, like I'm only like slight. I'm no pocket watcher, but by some of them bags he has, yeah, this brother is rich. Like when you look at those charts of people we putting up, and they be saying like you have to have this money to be in the super rich category. You have to be super rich to be in that, to have some of them bags he has. But yeah. So yeah, this might sound a bit crazy, but this is kind of a slight. This is a bit different. But there's another example. Pull up the other link. Ace. There's actually a kind of a version of this happening right here in the States. Yes. Again, in case you missed it, California lawmakers proposed legislation to ban Clear. Says that Clear only helps the wealthier passengers. If you're not aware, when they say Clear, they mean, again, it's something that you'll probably know if you got it, but if you don't, Clear is like that. I didn't know it was like that was the actual name of like the organization, but Clear is basically that additional screening by TSA that lets you get through TSA quicker. You basically pay and put your information in, so they basically let you skip the line. It's like airline fast pass, if you will. But anyway, in a bipartisan proposed bill, lawmakers in California would like to ban security screening company Clear, according to Politico. Democrat Josh Newman and Republican Janet Nguyen believe that Clear lets the wealthier people skip in front of passengers who have been waiting to be screened by TSA. This is unfair and inequitable. Newman told Politico that it becomes a have versus have-nots, where those who can afford to jump in front of jump the front of the rest of us, they don't even cut in front of TSA pre-boarding pass travelers who have been screened by TSA. So again, not necessarily 1-to-1, but it seems like in some areas. Oh, sorry, it's a bit. The screen's kind of blurry, so it's not just me. My reading has improved, but anyway, it seems like in some parts of the world they're cracking down on being able to, like, I don't want to say show off, because having clear wasn't necessarily a sign of showing off, but it definitely like they said, it's a have versus have not type of thing. So yeah, it definitely seems like we're seeing these instances of like. In some places they're kind of clamping down on displays of wealth, and it's not nothing that big. But I'm kind of curious to know what's your general thoughts on something like instances like this. Do you think and I kind of already know y'all answers, but maybe we can be challenged. Do y'all have any issue with government clamping down or banning showcases of wealth or ways to enact one's wealth? Or is it do you think everything should be fair game? If you got it, you got it. What do you think goes?
I guess it's situational. First, on this Clear thing, I'm not necessarily opposed to them banning it, because even though it's like a clear advantage for wealthy people, because they do give the reasoning in that they're letting these people skip lines that other people have to wait in, and it's literally just if you got the money for it, and having that that distinction that you got to wait in line no matter who you are. I think it is definitely more fair. I'm kind of surprised that they did this, because most of the time everything's about money, especially when you live in a capitalist society. So if you got the money, you get privileges, and that's like, I'm sure these people that are going on Clear are also flying first class, and it's not the same type of distinction. In that case, I guess you're paying for quality, not just saving yourself time. So I'm in favor of it, even though it's surprising, as long as they keep that same energy for everything else. But again, it is kind of, there's a threshold that you can pass to where it's like you restrict things or ban things from wealthy people for matters of fairness and equality is the best you can get. Versus in China's case, I'm still trying to figure out, like, why did they ban these people from the platforms when there wasn't any clear reason given as to why, or what the detriment to them having this large following brought.
Because they don't want people showing off. What you mean?
Dog, what does that mean? Like, I know this isn't.
Well, this has nothing to do with. This has nothing. No, I'll straw man it, or whatever they call it. This has nothing to do with nothing. But whenever I think of something like this, I think of Salute to Wale. They have a line in one of the records one can never be judged when he's dressed like his brother. And like the reason why it comes to my mind is because, and I'm not saying this is like the full blown reason, but imagine you're sitting across from somebody, and in this day and age, sitting across somebody is equal to seeing them on social media. They're wearing roughly the same thing as you. You know, they're basically in the same level position as you. Like you inherently probably not gonna have much of a reason to have any in initial issue with them. Now take that same person, you put a Gucci bag on them, a Louis Vuitton bag on them, a Chanel bag on them, a Montclair jacket, Montclair boots. What else? Some off white, some off white slides. The Supreme Tim Collab, the Ray Bans. Put a rollie on him, and he has an AP, and he has a Patek.
You got all these brands a lot, bro. You sure you ain't hiding nothing? Cause you had that all off the top.
The point is, you put that guy across from you, and you might not feel relatable. You might be like, "Who's this guy? You think his BM smell nice?" So it creates division. China don't want that.
Yeah, I guess if it's about just uh appeasing malcontents and by extension, I guess decreasing animosity towards the government and society that makes this person have the advantages where you don't. I suppose, I guess, if that's the rationale, I can understand why the government would do it, even if I don't agree with it. But it's just strange to me because you ban their social media accounts, which is whatever. Hopefully, nothing happened to them in real life. You never know, because it could just. I doubt they're living the same lavish lifestyle, just not able to post to social media. I feel like they got a visit from the CCP, but that's neither here nor there.
Jesus.
It just like all these things, it becomes a slippery slope because you do it for these people that are. I mean, I don't know what the sister was doing, but this dude was flaunting his wealth quite extravagantly, and it's kind of like almost over the top. But where does that threshold stop? Like, what is stopping you from? What's stopping a homeless person from reporting one of us? Damn, they eating on X restaurant, on posting it on Instagram, and I don't got that, so why do they get to show that? And I'm kind of being a little facetious with it, but like,
no, you raise a good point because what is excessive displays of wealth? Like right now, it might be like the Burberry shirt, but then maybe it becomes the North Face shirt, and then maybe it becomes the polo, the Ralph polo shirt, and then it becomes the Wrangler pants, and then everyone's just wearing Dickies.
You talking about my pants?
Damn, we ain't getting those sponsors from Wrangler or Dickies. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm not clowning. I'm not necessarily. Wrangler knows where it fits in the luxury department. But sorry, what else are you saying?
Yeah, I think the way you framed it, it's definitely. It just becomes a question of like, where does that opulence threshold get passed, and it is really just up to the complete discretion of the government in what they deem to be inappropriate. I mean, I really feel like this dude probably just pissed someone off, and this is just their excuse to cut him off. But I'm also wondering if these are influencers, which is a who knows what they're actually influencing or where they get their money from. But I This is coming from someone in America where China's a completely different country, completely different government. They got their own rules. But if you were cutting
Yeah.
off someone's income stream, revenue stream, if he maybe is just making the money from showing these videos online, then you just telling him, okay, you can't show any of this stuff now, then you're screwed. Not screwed, because obviously he has enough money to last several lifetimes if he's living how he's living. But a smaller content creator that is on the come up and trying to follow the same blueprint, I guess, or it doesn't even have to be the same blueprint. A content creator is going around to different environments, different countries, taking nice photos, posting on Instagram, getting a following, going about it like that. Someone gets jealous, reports them, and then the government tells them you can't post any of these images anymore. And this isn't someone that's on the level of this guy that's making millions and billions on billions. He's just trying to make a living. It kind of stops him from being able to do that when there isn't really any
Yeah.
clear justification or reasoning behind it. It's just very arbitrary and I don't know, just unfair to be honest. This is a simple way of saying it in my mind, but at the end of the day, I feel like this just boils down to yeah, I can think it's unfair, but if I'm living in not that I'm saying China is a dictatorship, but whatever,
All
however you
right.
want to
Well,
call
let's
it.
even
If I'm
let's
living in a
even let's.
society that
I don't even know. I don't even know what direction you're going in. But
all I'm
you
saying
do
is
bring up
that
like an
it's yeah.
excellent point. You can finish as long as you don't say anything
It's,
like detriment to any other country or nation.
man, no one from China's on the stream.
Yo,
Report me.
actually chill.
Well, what? I wasn't
Anyway, I
even.
was gonna say I was gonna say you do bring up like a super excellent point of like, cause it is some influencers like they are in the business of influencing just based off like a lavish um, lifestyle, and obviously the initial funds have to come from somewhere, but you know at a certain point it is like they are gaining revenue in the fact that they show off their luxury lifestyle. It's almost like the Mr. Beast effect to some extent. Obviously, you know they obviously came from humble beginnings to some extent, and you know initially they were just making videos, but at some point it just became like Mr. Beast is known for having wealth, and people continue to support that ideal, if you will. But yeah, what about you, Ace? What do you think of the government potentially clamping down on people displaying or demonstrating their wealth? Think it's too much?
Um, so I think I have the opposite views of Ghost here. With the clear thing, I don't see why they did it. Really, I don't see why there has to be fairness in who gets to
You never been
skip
at
a
a
line.
you never been at an amusement park and you never been at an amusement park and somebody with the fast pass and you've been waiting in that line, you've been waiting in that sun for like an hour, but that other person just got fast pass, be in front of the line.
Yeah, I have been in the line. I've seen it happen, and I'm like, they paid. Like they get, they get to they get to skip the line. Like that's what they paid for. I didn't.
But
I've
you can't say
never.
that. But you can't say you feel good about that.
I don't. I feel indifferent about it. I don't look at the person negatively. I don't look at my situation negatively. It's just a reality. Like I didn't pay for the ability to skip the line, so I can't. So it's not something for me to be mad about or complain about or like think negatively about or positively or anything. It's just that is the reality. Um so yeah, people like I don't know, people pay for advantages in I don't know, like life basically all the time. That's why everybody wants I mean that's why you want more money. That's why you want wealth to be able to make things in life easier or more convenient for yourself. Um so I don't know, when people take advantage of that, again, reality, I don't see why, like with something like a line, especially, like why there needs to be equality or fairness outside of just the quote unquote fairness of you paid for it, then like you pay for the ability to skip. That's what you get. Um so yeah, and that's in the US where like obviously we are in a capitalist system. Um that is like I don't know, that's it's obviously there are issues with the US as a whole and um like issues that stem from a wealth inequality, but I don't like I don't think something like taking away someone's ability to skip a line is I don't know, like even even remotely like starting to get to any type of solution for those grand societal issues.
So
Um
I mean, no
sorry,
one's trying
I
to
didn't.
fix the entire system over it.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
didn't mean
Ghost.
to interrupt. I just playing devil's advocate here. If that's your logic, you could say that about literally almost every single advantage that wealthy people can buy over non-wealthy people. And it's I don't think it's like just one specific thing. It's like a series of different I'm trying to think of the term, different advantages that you can provide for yourself that kind of culminate in the disparity that we see. So your reasoning, like at the end of the day, just getting a cheaper or faster ticket, to get through the lines isn't the biggest deal in the world. But you could say that about a lot of things, and it ends up culminating in what we see today. So I don't know, that reasoning is just like almost, I don't want to say lazy, but what's the threshold that you
Oh
got to
snap!
pass to? And I'm not. This isn't. I'm not coming for you directly. I'm just like, what's big enough to make enough of a difference?
Can't say I'm not coming for you, but hey, the point you just made is kind of shit and lazy.
I didn't say all that. I mean, I'm just saying because like
um
time is literally the most valuable asset that any of us have, and if you're gaining time, even if it is only a little bit of time, I just don't think it's like that insignificant.
um I don't know. I mean, like I hear what you're saying, but then like couldn't you make the same comparison in terms of like a slippery slope where it's like okay, people rich people shouldn't be or not even rich, but people with the ability um basically a ability to cut the line at an airport, they shouldn't be able to do that. Then where do you stop in terms of what people should be able to buy or not buy?
Yeah, it is
It's
true.
like
It's flippant.
um
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean and I guess I may not, 100% disagree with the point you made, like the point you made when you were discussing it, um but yeah, it's I don't know. I another part of this that I didn't bring up, and which is something I assume, is that the impetus for having a system like this would be for lines to move forward in airports quicker in general. So even outside of like the wealth disparity question, if it still ends up helping the airport, like the flow of lines through the airport as a whole, I also think there's good that comes from it in terms of that. Um,
And I mean, it's
okay.
airports. The line should be as slow as it needs to be. Nobody's like in a rush. We're all gonna get to the flight eventually.
I don't think that's true. I've definitely been in a rush at an airport before. Like, and there's been
If you in
long
a
lines,
rush
and
at
you're
the
like,
airport,
Yeah, I mean, so these lines be
this
crazy.
this is neither here nor there.
um, but yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And then with China, I say I'm the opposite because um they truly like you said a slippery slope, and it's like China's the bottom of the slope. Like they're literally a communist society, and I don't mean that in a negative way per se, but like if you think about it in like the with the American mindset, it would be like communism is, you know, the the way you don't necessarily want society to end up. It's a pure communist society, and that's what they have. So for them to do something like this, it makes perfect sense to me in like my very elementary understanding of communist ideals, where you want people to believe that um everyone essentially like is equal, and everybody is working for the, you know, the good of um society basically, or, you know, government slash society as a whole, on equal footing. Nobody's above another person, and you don't really like, in my understanding of communism, you wouldn't want to have people really aspire to having immense amounts of wealth, because it pretty much like it breaks that mentality. It breaks um that, you know, feeling of just being in lockstep with everybody else. um it kind of gives people a more capitalist mindset where, you know, you want to be able to um elevate yourself and get enough wealth to rise above. And yeah, if you're a communist society, this is not something that you would want your citizens doing. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. And I'm not gonna, I mean, I'm not here to uh to critique a whole nother country's um societal setup or whatever, economic setup. um Capitalism has worked in some ways for America, but obviously, like we were just discussing, there's ways in which it hasn't. And I think it's as much due to the um the like the concept of capitalism itself, as to people and like human nature, and um I don't know, probably some like random factors as well that just allowed America to work. Um and yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily like, I couldn't just fully just, you know, come on here and critique how another country approaches um
And
its
that wasn't the point of the topic, so we don't even have to go in that direction.
system. Yeah. So those are my thoughts.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I think you get pros and cons with either way. Um, it is interesting how. Actually, no, I'm not gonna even go there. I was gonna speak on some of the elements of China, but I'm not even going there. Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to everything. I think for a lot of people, not for a lot of people, for some people, I would even go as far as to say people like us, seeing others display or utilize their wealth doesn't affect us in one way or the other, but we can understand that in some ways it could for other people. So if you're trying to account for everybody, I guess you do implement some of these rules. If you want to be just uber merit based, uber capitalism, then you let people do whatever they want with their wealth. To the highest bidder, everything goes. But there's nothing else. We can move on to the next topic. Okay, Dr. Bryant, round two, and I say round two, but that's in reference to the fact that last week or last time we had a conversation about a conversation that Cam Newton had with Dr. Bryant, um, and now not now, but they also had an interesting conversation with Nick Cannon. And just full disclaimer, I believe this interview actually happened, or the conversation happened actually before the Cam Newton one. But Cam Newton's definitely been in the spotlight recently for sitting down with men that some people may or may not deem as toxic, the T word, and or at the very least, men that are being fruitful and multiplying uh, with different, not just with one partner. And in this particular part of the interview, they're having a conversation about Nick Cannon's relationship history. Let's hear what they have to say.
I've dealt with some people that balance me and are equally yoked. And at times, have I been manipulative and prey on certain things? Yes, because I'm a man.
Right.
And
but not all men do that. We don't want to. Blanket
I'm a
all men.
man, and
all
I will
men
take
do
advantage.
not prey and manipulate. Not all men.
First of all humans prey and manipulate, but in a man
Not
in a relationship,
in a praying way. Not in a praying way.
if I see that I can say, okay, I feel like I need this and this person has this, I'm going to do and say whatever I need to do to get that.
But Nick.
Hope there's more to this.
Yeah, obviously you see the slide, but that's that's an interesting thing. If you're trying to get to like the root of what Nick Cannon is saying, you're just trying to say that it does kind of sound wild. This kind of sound wild when he tried to say that because he's a man, he manipulates and preys on people. But there is a argument that one can make that humans are, or maybe just species in general, are like self-serving, so they will do what they need to get the thing that they want. And the dynamic between men and women is typically men want to have access to sex, so they will do certain things to get that access. But yeah, it just kind of sounds a little wild. We'll let the conversation continue. I think they move on to another part of the thing though, because even though in this clip, Nick Cannon says the wild thing, but and then that clip, I feel as if Dr. Bryant says the more wild claim.
With all due respect, seriously, to all the women that you've encountered, ladies, I'm saying this: the reason why it's worked for you is because you have chosen and to prey on low-functioning women who don't have the emotional intelligence. No, I'm going there. Who will allow you to do that, Nick? And when I say allow, it's not a control thing. When I say allow, I'm not saying that she sits across you and says, this is what you won't do, you're crossing a boundary. Nick.
I disagree.
You going?
Now starts to speak on, and then they start to speak on specifically the people that Nick Cannon may or may not have dealt with. You know, it definitely sounds wild in the context where we know from Nick Cannon for having multiple children's mothers, spreading his seed far and wide. And
that's a crazy
for somebody to sit across from you and say, factual too, and for somebody to sit across from you and say the only reason why you have been able to implement this practice is because you dealt with low functioning women. Holy man. What else they saying on here?
I don't know if it's the Libra in me, if it's my abandonment issues as a child. I'm quick to be like, we agree to disagree, so I'm out. I'll run, I'll detach, I'll act like, I'll shut down, I'll internalize. And I know that's not healthy, but just as a man, to stay away from conflict with any woman in my life, I'll just be like, we agree to disagree, you can have that.
Kind of a
And
jump,
now
I
speaking
think.
on the top. What?
said that was kind of a jump. Oh, but yeah, I guess that is the
Yeah, this is
up
just
at
clips
the
throughout.
top. Yeah.
This is clips throughout the. This is clips throughout the whole thing. The whole thing is probably like it.
Mm.
Plus, but yeah, now kind of speaking on Nick Cannon's perspective of when it comes to dealing with issues and potentially why some of the relationships that he had might not have been as long lasting as they could have, because, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to load my input on this whole thing just yet, but I will say it's already kind of theme loading things onto the things that they had no control over, because as a man, as a Libra. Ugh. I always give a lot of salute to Nick Cannon. He's one of the few brothers out there that seems like he's successfully operating in a multi household. But some of these things, I don't know if I can get on board with. What's the last part clip? What they got really saying on that? Oh, it just refers to. Oh, maybe the Cam Newton thing did happen first. After Cam Newton sat down with Coach Dr. Bryant, folks on the internet started to revisit. Oh yeah, revisit the sit down. Yeah, yep. So salute to. I'll still say salute to Dr. Bryant. Salute to Nick Cannon. So yeah. Now that we start to have an understanding of this sister and how their mindset, how they approach these kind of conversations. And in particular, again, it's kind of interesting to see them sit down with brothers that have a lot of similarities in the way they procreate. In these brief discussions, or kind of inserts of discussions, who do you tend to side with more? Who's making a bit more sense in your mind? Some of the parts of Nick's Cannon's philosophy of some of these things are internal and just my nature, or is Dr. Brian spitting when they say some of these generations don't necessarily make sense for one, and damn, this is I don't think we ever bumped to a conversation like this, but is being with multiple women, is that a sign of a low, quote unquote, low functioning woman? That doesn't sound like a B1 before conversation, but I guess we bumped into it. What do you think, Ace?
Off rip, like based on these clips, because I did not watch the full interview. I think I probably side more with Dr. Bryant, although we haven't heard much from her besides the comment about women and their role in Nick's relationships. But yeah, I mean, starting from the top, they touched on manipulation, and Nick Cannon's final point being that all people manipulate, but seemingly men in relationships more so, and that manipulation consists of doing whatever or doing or saying whatever to get his goal. And yeah, I mean, for that,
the definition of manipulation, by the way,
you say
that isn't. I feel that there is some lag going on here tonight. We might do a bit of
slight
evaluating, but I was saying that's not the definition of manipulation, by the way. Just to be clear.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I don't know the actual definition, but according to the way Nick Cannon said it at the end, and I don't know, like, call me basic or whatever, but I have trouble getting on board with that much, if at all. Like, to some degree, to some small degree, I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, like, for me and my my concept of like the ideal relationship being founded on communication and like truth, it's hard for me to like just co-sign so like you saying manipulation in any way, like using that word and the way he describes it, I can't imagine many scenarios in which I'll be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. If it cut, so I guess the first thing I think of is if you're trying to if you're dating someone and you're saying things that I don't know, exaggerate much if much about you, like I don't know, career, accomplishments, I don't know, your past, like things I can't I can't think of how that would be good. Like it seems like you're always setting yourself up for for failure if you're because one, it shows that you're not confident in yourself and who you actually are. And then
Are you
also
trying to say that if a brother are you trying to say if a brother gasses himself up, he's being manipulative?
not necessarily gassing, like you should have confidence, but you shouldn't lie about your accomplishments or
So,
your abilities or
so what if I'm a janitor, but when I present, I'm an executive custodial manager. You're saying that's manipulative?
no, not I mean I feel like you're skirting a line because ultimately you should want somebody who is able to accept who you actually are. And I'm not saying like if your title or if somebody like if
Who
you can
most who
justify
most
okay
men are
somebody
trash?
else you said
Who most men are is trash. Busura.
um I don't really know how to I mean that doesn't make the case for it. Okay, now so go ahead and manipulate, like that just means that the problem is with men, like you just made the problem with men.
Oh, I'm not trying to argue. I'm not trying to argue Nick's side. I'm not with that manipulating shit. I'm just. It seems like we're kind of getting into a conversation of like how are we defining manipulation? If it's purely like gassing yourself up, that's doesn't necessarily sound right. But also like what is the threshold? It's like, and I didn't necessarily intend for the conversation to go this way. I'm just kind of responding based off what you're saying. My apologies.
Okay, yeah, I think I follow. Yeah, and I mean this is why I said like it's hard for me to co-sign 100%. Like I can't I'm not completely dismissing or throwing it out the whatever. I It's just like the way he says it, it's hard for me to think of scenarios in which I would be like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine to mislead or um manipulate or make somebody
I
think
think I
something
think
that isn't
I think
true
a
or
way to look at this, and I'm in no shit. Just to be clear, I'm not with Nick Cannon's point at all. I think an example of like a way a person could, I'm not could say or do something that's not necessarily fully truthful. Let's say you have you have a woman and you're interested in her, and they want to go to this event. They want to go see this like movie. They want to go see this show. You don't want to do that at all. You're not with that shit, and it's gonna
Mhm.
cost you if you do go. Is it manipulation to do something that you don't want to do in order to gain potential access to, what the end result could be if that woman feels like they had an enjoyable time and they went to an event and they had an experience?
No, I don't think so. And I think it's not because like I mean,
So
it's
at
not
the
like
end of
you're
the day, when they
obligated
ask
to
when it at the end of the day,
okay, there you go.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just kind of messed things up. At the end of the day, when they ask you, um, did you have a good time? And you
Right.
and you say, yeah, I had a blast. So are we going back to my place? Is that manipulation?
That's the part. That's where I can see like a gray area where you know you could say something slick to make it work. Um, and it some people may consider it manipulation, some may not. That's where I see like that is an example of a gray area to me. Um, yeah, I guess I was thinking more so of like doing anything that is pretty much like outright lying or basically like could introduce these like falsehoods into the relationship that um ultimately like probably lead to the downfall of it. Um
So I have a follow up quick question, kind of tagging off of what Quest said. Going back to the topic we had a few weeks ago, where this is the one where
Uh-oh.
what's her name? She
mhm.
asked the dude, is she pretty right now? I can't remember the exact phrase she used, and then he
Yeah,
said
yeah.
basically,
Oh,
nah.
Scarlet.
Yes,
Sue
the
Scarlet.
Scarlet thing. And he was like, no, absolutely not. We all kind of universally agreed that even if that was his thoughts, that he either should not have said it at all. I know that's what I said, or framed it in a different way. Would you say it's
Mhm.
manipulating if he if she asked how I look right now and he said, "Oh, you look good," even though technically it wouldn't have been the truth? It's a falsehood because we know his true thoughts on it. But would you think of that as manipulating?
Right. So
Hmm.
maybe maybe this is what um Nick Cannon is referring to more so cuz I would like I wouldn't call it manipulation. Maybe he would or whatever, but I think I obviously like I my thoughts on that haven't changed. It's not that you have to lie in my mind. It's that all you have to do is like um is think of think of the question in more of a I don't know how do I say it? Like think of the question more about the person and um I don't know why I'm having trouble figuring out how to say this. Maybe because I'm
What
trying
are
to
you trying to say,
manipulate you
fam?
guys.
So
Um, what I'm trying to say is,
I'm on record. I don't think I can be manipulated.
yeah, no, I'm just joking. But no, there. I feel like there is a way you can answer the question as, um, yes, I think you are beautiful, and be 100% truthful about it, where it's not simply limited to, I don't know, like physical appearance, I guess, or
Dog, are
maybe
you?
it.
Oh, uh, really? We're
What?
pulling that card. The you say, "Oh yeah, you're beautiful," but in your mind you're thinking your soul is beautiful, but right now you
No,
looking
no, no,
kind of
no, no,
ugly.
no.
When you
I'm just
know her
thinking more
intent,
so of. I'm thinking more so as not limited to physical beauty alone, but encompassing the physical beauty with the person as like as a whole kind of. So for example, for to be clearer, you fell in love with this person, you became attracted to this person partially because of their physical beauty. If there are I don't know, if there are some days where you think, okay, the 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 um that one aspect of that person, the physical beauty, increases or decreases, you still have an overall attraction to that person as a whole. So you can always like uh um you can always acknowledge and recognize that the person is beautiful regardless of fluctuation day to day or whatever, hour to hour or whatever. And that's what I'm saying is like if the person asks or if the woman asks if she's beautiful, I don't think it would be lying if you said yes, you see her as beautiful, because of course you see your wife as beautiful.
No, no, no,
But
no.
it
She's asking
encompasses.
in that moment. She's saying in that moment. Like, that's low key manipulation. What you're saying right there, to be honest, like if you know the intent of what she's asking and you reframe it in your mind, I wouldn't say it's manipulation, but it's definitely a little. We're kind of getting off topic, anyways, but that just seems like you could frame anything in your mind if we're going that route.
Okay, and I mean, like I said, I said this at the beginning. I don't 100% disagree with Nick Cannon's point. It's just when I initially heard it, my immediate thoughts were going to something that could be a detriment to the relationship as a whole, because you're trying to get what you want in the immediate I mean, yeah, like in the immediate future, like, trying to get with this woman, or trying to um yeah, by portraying yourself in a certain way or whatever. If your significant other, if your woman, I mean, because I think this is mostly something that's going to happen with women versus men, asks you if she thinks, or if you think they're beautiful, the um the like what we're calling manipulation now, what is the outcome of that? Is it something self uh um is it something to receive some immediate gratification or anything like that, or is it to reaffirm your partner's, like, I don't know, confidence in themselves, their assurance that you are attracted to them, and you still think they're beautiful? Like, where is the negative to saying yes, I think you're beautiful? And okay, if you uh um like thought deeper about it in your mind, and had to do deeper thinking about it, come to that conclusion, where is the, like, negative aspect to that?
I mean, you could say that, but that's for one, that's kind of looking at it from a results based mindset, from your own results based mindset, because, like, let's go back to the first example that Quest brought, and I'm 100% being devil's advocate right now, but let's say that you go on a date, the woman proposes event, this function that you don't want to go to. You go to it, you didn't enjoy yourself. She asks, "Did you like it?" And you have something that eventually you want from this woman, be it shorter term or a long relationship. You could frame it and say, even though I didn't like it, I could portray it like I did, because in the long run, it's going to be a positive if I get with her, because I'll be a good man for her, blah, blah, blah. So you're looking at it from a viewpoint where, oh, it's going to result in something good down the
Yeah.
line. I you could you could really like get crazy with the reasoning and the logic if we're going that route. And again,
Yeah,
if it's
and
just,
I mean, speaking to your point here, um this is probably a, like, you making this comparison now, I think brings up a good point, that the if the employing a results based logic to it, um I think works, because, okay, with Quest example, if your objective is to get with the woman, and you twist it in your mind in order to get that, to achieve that, and you um yeah, you're comfortable doing that, there is to me, there's a possible outcome of like, say whatever, this event, this concert you went to, super important to her, or, let's take it further and say it's meeting the family. And obviously, you know, meeting her family is important to her, and you say you're fine with it. Like there are um varying degrees to which doing this is more or less likely to um hurt the relationship, or even more or less likely to um help. So I don't think it's like a one size fits all where yes, blanket, you can manipulate and it's fine for every situation or not. But it is it like yeah, the applying this logic has to be um it would have to be very extremely situational. And uh I think obviously just being truthful is um is yeah, gonna be your best bet. Like striving to do that 100% of the time is going to be your best bet. So I now have just spoken for Nick
Fair
Cannon for the first point. um you want me to keep going, Quest? 'Cause it took forever.
Oh, I forgot. This is a two-parter. She said some
It's
crazy
three-parter.
Yeah. I don't know how many parts it was is meant to be, but yeah, again, I didn't expect the tangent of manipulation to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, we don't want to spend too much time on one topic. We got a million other things to talk about. So I guess I'll let you have the other part that I think I asked about Ghost. Do you think a guy being able to interact with multiple women, do you think that's more of an indication of a woman being low functioning, as Dr. Bryant said?
Can't
Or is that
believe
just
she
guy having
said
game?
that's crazy, bro. No. It is not a sign of a woman being low functioning, which is just a crazy phrase that I would never assign to anyone. I
Well, I mean, some people are
I mean,
functioning on a low level. Some people like ain't all the way there.
yeah, like if we're talking like if they have mental injuries, and yeah, there's some stupid people out there, yes, but I'm not just gonna come out and say it about people I don't even know. But Nick Cannon's relationship with
I
his
mean, we don't have to know a
woman,
person to understand.
she know anything about them. She knows literally
Keep
nothing
going.
about
I'm
them
a,
except they're with Nick Cannon.
I'm gonna log out
And
and
if
come back
we're
in. But you keep going, Ghost. My apologies.
um, I don't forgot what tangent I was gonna go on. Oh yeah, so Nick Cannon's relationship with these women, his wives, girlfriend. I have no clue what their status is. If they know what they're getting into and they are aware of like the fact that he has multiple partners and he wants them to be one of these partners, this is kind of harking back to the Cam Newton thing from last week. Doesn't How would that make them low functioning if like they know what they're getting into when they consent to it? Or
I mean,
how
I
is
think
that
the point is just accept it, she would qualify as low functioning. Like knowing, like if they know beforehand he's been in multiple situations like this, it's probably like, or yeah, even if they don't think it's not gonna change, but they think like they're the person that's gonna change him, that's probably an indication in her mind.
Hmm. I I guess by that reasoning, I that explains her stance, but
Mhm.
that's I think that you can't say that because it's
Why can't you?
having multiple partners, even though it's not something that I would go for, does not inherently make you low functioning. Because it's like we have biblical examples, obviously, but even branching away from that, if you know that's what you want in a relationship and you you get into a relationship where you do have multiple, or this is so bizarre, you're with a dude that has multiple wives and you're one of those wives. It's such a weird way to frame this in my own mind, but if you know what you're getting into and you like that, it's like it's like polyamorous relationships is definitely not something that I am for or understand, but I'm not just gonna
We
come out
got
and
you. We
say
know
that
you don't
anyone
want it.
who wants it is just like a a stupid person or low functioning person and they have some deficiencies because it's like literally like a just a preference thing. That's the way I look at it, to be honest. Because if you're
Mhm.
getting what you want out of a relationship as far as like level of care and love that you receiving and all that, as long as it's not non-scriptural, I don't see what the harm is in having a different uh framework of how you receive that than someone
Wait,
else.
you guys can't hear me, can you?
I can hear you.
Now we can,
Okay, sorry. I was playing
but
on
you
sound.
you probably still lagging.
It feels like it. Damn it. Hmm. Hmm. Sorry, I don't want to detract from the quality, even on editing and post. A lot of these can get cleaned up. Um. Anyway, yeah, you're right for the most part, Ghost. It does feel a bit suspect calling a woman low functioning for this particular reason. But I think there are examples or levels to it where it can get kind of suspect. Like if a woman specifically wants and will only accept monogamy, uh, but they're interacting with a person who has showcased a history of the complete opposite. If they were to try to still interact with that person, expecting a different result, then maybe we look at that person and say, "Oh, you're probably not making the best choice at the very minimum."
Right. Yeah, and I guess again, trying to see Dr. Bryant's point, um, like like we can't understand. Like you just said it, you can't really understand wanting uh wanting a multiple wives relationship. Like it's hard for me to justify that from the male standpoint outside of just the physical, but let
Who
alone
can't
try to
understand that?
think of what you say.
Who can't understand that?
Outside outside of the physical, like the um just the amount of, I don't want to say like, well, yeah, headache in terms of
Well, we
in
understand
this.
that we understand how significant physicality is to men. So that's the pretty much the end all be. That's the main reason.
I mean, you could say that, but at the same time, like if I'm trying to think of a situation that I actually think um would have the potential to work, it would be with a man who has gotten past the physical and is like able to actually um able to actually consider like the logistics of having multiple wives and multiple children by multiple wives. Like that's not something to just be like, oh yeah, sure, that'll just work itself out
I
in my mind.
mean, logistically, if the man is even, and you all know my stance on having these conversations, I definitely don't necessarily want to have it right now, especially when there's potential technical issues. But from a logistical standpoint, if a man does have all of his affairs in order and he can facilitate this type of lifestyle, it probably does benefit the man because he can procreate faster. He can have multiple people to rely on and depend on and trust. Um, yeah, there's a multitude of reasons, and again, we can say, you know, a man that wants more than physical elements of in life is quote unquote more ideal, but fundamentally a lot of this just goes down to the desires of the respective sex, and in a lot of times in monogamous situations, the man is not getting his desires met.
So you think like you because okay, if we just think about relationships in general, obviously people are not like doing well right now in terms of divorce rates and all that, and like just um yeah, people's ability to stick together and actually like commit to wedding vows type deal. That's not not we don't have good statistics on that right now. You think adding more wives,
Depending on what your definition of good is.
I mean, I just said it like the divorce rates. If we just look at the divorce rates alone.
Well, what is good divorce rates?
Oh, I got you. Oh, well, it's not 50% for sure. Um, I mean, we'll just think of it in terms of grades. Like a good would be a B at least, like at 80%.
Fair enough. I'm just asking.
You want to strive for an A. But yeah, you think that adding more wives adds like benefits and the complexities of having multiple women that you are the like the leader of doesn't um doesn't outweigh those benefits? Like you think what do you think it would be
Maybe the
easier
divorce
or
rates are so high because more people should be in the multiple relationships, but they aren't.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm
Joking.
asking Quest.
Just joking.
Again, again, I'm trying. My mind's kind of in other places right now, and I'm not gonna have that full fledged conversation right now. But the problem is, I'm not even arguing for what makes the most productivity or efficient or effective marriage. I'm just strictly talking about your statement to you can't understand um, men from a total perspective wanting it. I'm just talking about it's the desire of men, and the desire of men are not being met. So that's
Okay. I think I
that's where
got
my
you.
statement starts and stops.
Got it. But yeah.
Um,
So that I wasn't even landing on that. Like I was going to say even more so like I couldn't understand it in terms of a woman like being accepting being with a man is um who is the husband of multiple wives. Like it's it's that much more difficult for me to understand. So um if we if we I don't know, assume that Dr. Bryant has that same like mentality, then it's probably and also her being a woman, it's probably like easier for her to think in her mind, well, the only women I've known or interacted with, I mean, I don't remember what her um doctor qualifications are if she's a therapist or something, but if it's in a professional setting or outside of that, the only women she's known who have been with men that um um maybe not are not maybe not are actually in a multiple wives situation, but have multiple partners, and it's like known to any level. It's always been where the woman has had some issues with her self-confidence or whatever, then I could see where she would draw the conclusion that maybe not 100% of the time, but for the most part, these women do have some type of issue or deficiency or something like that that would or should be resolved. Again, this is all an assumption based off of a 10 to 12-second clip.
Yeah, I think we fully rationalized that we're not necessarily going based off of a full feature length film worth of information, but I think we were still able to kind of dig deep into some of the conversation, and some of them I would like to expand on potentially one day. This particular setting is not that one, but yeah, I guess going back, I mean, I guess you guys said it for the most part, even though they didn't, Dr. Bryant didn't necessarily kind of, there wasn't as much back and forth as there was in like the say the Cam Newton interview. It sounds like you guys are in general siding with Dr. Bryant's view on some of the dynamics of a life like Nick Cannon's, if I'm hearing y'all properly.
Yeah, probably, maybe. Again, like it's hard to
Say it with your chest
say.
now.
No, it's hard to say like, okay, I 100% agree with Dr. Bryant because there is a
You won't
possibility
say
that,
100%.
you know,
Just
had
like
I
you can be like you can be 49 and 51.
no, no, well, okay. I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, sure. That's not very decisive.
I mean, it's more. It's if we were voting, you would be on one side or on the other.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, salute to Nick Cannon. Salute to Dr. Brian. I'm pretty sure this won't be the last time we bump into a conversation relating to Dr. Bryant. But nothing else, we can move on to the next topic. In the interim, I guess I feel as if just rebooting up Discord doesn't necessarily get me to where I'm trying to be. Is it just like I'm not even seeing like any drop frames or anything? I'm getting kind of pissed.
Oh, this link isn't working.
I guess while you're fussing around with that, hopefully the recording of this doesn't come out crappy. Give me one sec. Okay, you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Don't see any video though.
Yeah, that lag is nasty. Yeah, I'm just trying to test the audio right now. Yeah, you guys were talking like 5 seconds after I do.
Jeez.
since y'all aren't the ones that are, you guys are on point with one another, so it must be a me issue. I guess everyone, go out of Discord real quick and see if we can do some type of synchronization back up.
Okay.
How about now?
Can you hear me fine?
Yep, but I think you're lagged.
Yeah. Probably is better if I. There's not really any way to really test it. You guys can hear me, obviously.
Yeah.
But you guys just respond a little bit delayed, and I don't know how it comes out on the audio either. The sucky part. Let me see as far as visually. I think it does look sus there too. How many fingers am I at?
2.
Oh wait, hold on.
3.
3.
How am I now?
3.
2.
2.
Yeah, there must be a crazy delay. Because we're answering that like as soon as your fingers go
Yeah.
I feel like it's gotta be Discord if you're not having internet issues.
I guess I could try one other thing, but give me a second. Oops, not that. Okay, oops. I'm assuming you guys can still hear me.
Yep.
Yeah, I might have to try doing something like this. Maybe it's a bit more responsive here. 1 second. That won't work actually. Actually, let me see it on the stream before I even get to testing out other things with the Discord. There. Okay. Okay, so you guys can hear me all right. The audio on my end is actually working fine. You guys can hear me volume-wise, but we are testing and see if there's a lag. And one more time, you guys can hear me still?
Yep.
It actually doesn't sound too bad on the video. All right, I guess we'll try John. And if I'm not satisfied with the quality, then we'll just do the podcast all over again. Okay.
I don't know if this is the same link that you were looking at.
And why? Yes, the Marshawn. It's Marshawn. Looks a little zoomed in weird. Anyway, so I feel this happened like a mad long time ago, and Ghost, you might be able to speak to some elements here a bit better, but we all know Marshawn Lynch, whole legend, and the only element of this I'm not 100% sure on is if this was specifically a practice that they were responsible for. I know, like, obviously pro players or former pro players sometimes they'll like host events because if you have a young son, a young child out there, why wouldn't you want to do a training camp hosted by a whole legend like Marshawn Lynch? So I don't know if it was specifically him or if he was just kind of participating in somebody else's like training camp, but he was there. And this video shows an interaction with Marshawn Lynch and one of the young kids' mothers. And yeah, let's play it and see what y'all think.
Okay. No, my son's in jail. It's not okay. I didn't say that. Maybe you should just let him know because they're all in here.
Is there a man here with you?
Yeah.
Okay. I do. I cuss a lot. I cuss in front of them. So look, I cuss a lot.
Every one of them's
all right,
fine.
that's okay.
No, my son's in jail. It's not okay.
Is there a man here with you?
Not here.
Is not a man here with you?
But I'm here. What does that matter?
Because I'm
My
gonna
son
speak to
is
a
leaving.
man.
I don't care. It's my son.
Tell them
Oh,
that-
did you walk here too? They all
But I'll tell them that if they're not doing what they need to do, then yes, there's consequences to that.
Yeah.
If it takes that amount of time for when I tell a kid to do something and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then there is consequences, like push-ups, like running laps,
Like telling
like
them to get away from your drill.
like telling them to get out of my drill if they're not participating,
Get out of
doing
your
right,
drill.
get
I'm
out
not
of my
immune to
drill,
testing. I'm not immune to
get the out of my drill, or whatever it takes to get my drill.
Hopefully the quality isn't too awful. Man, I'm so paranoid about how this will turn out. Anyway, man, this reminds me of like the fact that I would really love to have a sports podcast. Also, better than anybody that's heavily played a team sport, in college, even in high school at a high level. Heck, even if you just follow sports to like a high 18th degree, maybe you're your own local Wojowski. If you're interested in podcasting, hit me up. But this is one of those pieces of content where it's applicable no matter if you talk about it now or if you talk about it years and years later. So, like I said, there was interaction between Marshawn Lynch and a parent of a young kid that seemed like they're participating in drills. And, while a lot of people know Marshawn Lynch is like, a relatively funny guy from the West Coast. He's on all type of ads. He seems very lighthearted in a lot of times when he's speaking. A lot of interviews he does, he just kind of like just speaking from his experiences, and he seems relatively cool. Obviously, he didn't get to where he is at by keeping it light when he's actually on the field, and if he's now coaching or leading training camps and leading drills, he's gonna probably start that same level of tenacity that led him to be great onto the young kids. Now we don't know the age of these young kids, but they seem to be relatively young to the point where like the mothers are there and things of that nature. And there's two parts of this clip that's worth getting into. One, I guess this the main thing from y'all perspective. Do y'all think what do y'all think of the dynamic of when you have a coach or somebody like that, and he seemed like he's one of those hardball coaches where he's where if the kids are not necessarily following what he's saying to the letters to like the T, he's gonna be some cursing going on. What do y'all think of that? We'll start off with you, Ghost.
I mean, there's definitely coaches in youth sports that can take it overboard as far as with how they talk to the kids and the level of discipline they enforce. But at the same time, there is a baseline of authority that you need to provide. And I think sports is just very unique in the way that, like you said, and this is someone from that hasn't really participated in like any high level team sports at all, but just I know just from being around little sports that I have been and just seeing how it operates. A coach cussing at kids, even younger kids, as long as it's not directly to the kid, like calling them this, or that, get the F off the field is really like kind of standard. And again, it does boil down to like how.
So if you as a parent, if a coach is talking to your, if a coach is talking to your child like that, that's good. You're cool with that.
If again, it does depend on the coach. It depends on the context. Like, are you in practice? You in a game? Blah blah blah. But if the coach is talking to the players as a whole, and he's saying like, get the F off the field, you can't be doing this, or that, I would not have an issue with it. Where I think there is a distinction is if you're talking directly to a kid and saying, get the F off the field, like singling them out or isolating them, that's where I would have a problem. And I don't know like how he
What if that one isolated kid is the one that's causing the issues?
To be clear, I think that's what I feel like that's the situation that happened with Marshawn
But
Lynch, because he said it more towards one person, and in
was
the way
it?
that I was understanding it.
I interpret it as he's like talking to all the kids. I could be wrong because the woman talking about her child says that he's in tears, but I thought it said like multiple kids were in tears or something. So it's hard to know without like seeing the
He
full
probably singled
context.
out multiple kids. You
He's
get the F off.
talking to all the kids as a whole, and some of them are not taking kindly to it. If if he is talking directly to a single
So,
kid,
so I guess just to be clear, it's cool if a coach talks reckless to the kids. It's not cool if the coach talks crazy to one kid.
yeah, because there's a very fine line between building a team and destroying a young kid's confidence. Where if you're talking directly to a kid and you're saying you're screwing this up, you're doing this and that, a lot of kids, it kind of depends on how you're wired. Some kids would take that to heart in a negative way, and like it creates a negative feedback loop, or some kids will just get motivated by that. But it's not really a healthy thing to.
We're talking sports here, you know. It's
We
do
are
or die
talking.
out there.
This is children's sports. There's a difference if you're if you're in college, you got a scholarship for it versus kids doing this recreationally for fun, which is why I think there's a very thin line that you have to follow.
Yeah,
But
but a lot of these
for
kids, and that's what I'm saying. I think I think you have some familiarity and understanding of like the youth circuit, how it can get like obviously it is quote unquote recreation for recreational purposes, but some of these kids they do have a passion for it already, and like
and
the goal is to make sure they are putting their all into it.
exactly, and that's why the context also matters, because if this is like some elite camp that these kids are like already at a high level for their relative age groups, then you're gonna see a lot higher competitiveness.
Isn't it by definition an elite camp if it's freaking Marshawn Lynch?
Not really.
How more elite do you get?
For
You
all,
need freaking
this could
Tom Brady to
be
get out there?
for all this we know, this could be like some random little public school where his kids. I mean, we really know he's probably not sent to some rinky-dink little school, but it could just be something like he stopped in for a courtesy training thing. We don't know. The fact that he's saying like my drills and all my deals.
This is true, and I get that, and I gave a disclaimer. But we know it's serious enough for him to be like, "Hey, y'all need to be on point and do my drills, and if you can't, then get off the field." He's taking it seriously.
And,
Are the kids taking it seriously?
yeah, and that's where I will talk about the second part of what you said afterwards, but that's where I think I do understand, as long as it doesn't pass a serious threshold where it becomes less about encouragement, which should be kind of the end goal, and the reason why you're talking like that, even if it doesn't come off kindly, is encouragement to get better as versus disparagement, which is what you don't want. But I do get it, and if a coach was talking to the whole team a certain way, and it was like a lack of effort thing, then yeah, I get it. Like just on a real small level, like when I was younger and like doing like exercise stuff and training with my dad, and was like doing push-ups and like I was some level. Oh, that's you're giving up now. That's all you can do. It's always gonna be some level of like like almost, I don't want to say shit talking, but as long as it doesn't pass a certain level and it's healthy, and then it's encouraging you to be better and not give up versus just calling you trash, you kind of some kids need that. Like it kind of it comes with the territory.
I don't want to completely dismiss what you're trying to say because you're not saying anything wrong here. But if we're talking about a pro player or a former pro player, and they understand, like, hey, if you really want to be the best, you got to start early. You got to give it your all. You got to take it seriously. We're talking about somebody that's played on the highest level, so he's obviously going to instill again that his nature and that tenacity into whoever he's talking with. And again, while you're not wrong in the sense that when we're talking to kids, we can't completely, treat them like they're adults. But at the same time, if anyone went into that type of environment looking for any level of like a coach that's going to like soft hand these kids, we understand that's like they're almost out of their mind.
Yeah, there's gonna be a high level of discipline without a doubt, and a lot of parents wouldn't get that. I'm just saying it's a lot of the coaches that have that mindset, even if it is effective, it is not healthy for the child's development, which is I think where it should be the buck should be stopped. Even if that's not like 100% gonna facilitate them becoming pro, like there's a whole lot of stories of sports dads coaching their own kids and having them do like outlandish punishments and stuff, and yeah, it was effective, but it's really not something to endorse or condone. But I do get what you're saying.
I mean, what do we then? What is the criteria for effectiveness? If we're saying that if it was effective and they became really good and they went on to play at a pro or semi-pro level,
Yeah, they go on to play at a semi-pro level, and
I think
they
it was
have
wholly effective.
they're completely obsessive over the sport. After their playing days are over, they have nothing else in their life. They are mentally not in a great spot because of how they were raised, or they're not good enough, which is going to be the case for 99% of kids. They're not good enough to succeed at a pro level despite the rigorous training they go through at a young level, and it screws up their life beyond the sport because they are not doing the sport.
There was not a bevy of like young kids that went through a circuit that it ended up messing with them mentally. If they have a well-rounded balance of life, where on the field you can get a high level of being instilled with like discipline, or like, hey, like we are going to give it our all and there's not going to be any level of light footing around, but off the court you still have nurturing from your parents or things of that nature. You're not gonna turn out like what you're describing. That doesn't.
You're saying that, but
That's just not common,
most
or
of the
just not
time,
realistic.
for a to get to a very high level starting from youth, most of the time these sports parents are it's there's no balance. It's all or nothing into this one sport, which is kind of to become a pro, it almost needs to be that. And most of these kids aren't turning pro, but they're still getting the upbringing as if they were going to be, or they have the capacity to do that when they don't. So you're saying, yeah, ideally you do want to balance
And
off
while
the
the,
field,
and while the
even-
numbers do go that way, obviously there's only going to be a small select few of people that play at a professional level. There's nothing to suggest that you would want to give them non-professional treatment.
Yeah, but you're saying professional treatment, but that's not a healthy thing for a kid. Like I get it's sports, and to get to that level, you need to be brought up in that manner. But it's not something that should be looked at positively.
I just don't know how we're gauging what's not healthy or not.
Because I'm not even talking about this specific example, but when it becomes to a point where it's overtaking your life, and again, if it's a positive reinforcement, positive encouragement, it's one thing, but a lot of time it is not. It's obsessive.
Well, we're not talking about taking. No, we're not taking it. We're not talking about making it the single focal point of a young kid's life. We're talking about how they are treated when they are at practice.
If you can guarantee that how you're treated at practice is completely once you're off the field, that doesn't carry over into anything else, that's one thing. But I don't think you can just say that.
Marshawn Lynch is not following the kids home and yelling, "Hey, get up at this time. Eat. Make sure you eat your greens." He's not. Once they leave the
I mean,
field,
I
they
didn't know
are
we were talking
effectively-
about
No,
Marshawn Lynch
they're
specifically.
getting
I thought we were just talking about like branching out. Just
I'm not talking about Marshawn Lynch specifically. I'm talking about treatment of I'm talking about treatment of coaches to young players. That's what we're talking about. But hey, if you're more of the mindset where we gotta make sure we're always keeping kids' mental health in consideration, that might come at the cost of the young kid being great.
I mean, to be clear, I get partially where Marshawn Lynch, why he's being that tough with him, but all I'm saying is that there's a point that you can go too far, and a lot of coaches and authority figures do go too far when they shouldn't be.
This is true. There's a threshold to everything. First to the second question, what about you, Ace? What do you think of the dynamic between like a coach and a young player? Do you think and again, not to hyper focus on this, but do you think this example of what was being, we don't know, we didn't see what happened on the field, but based off of the description of what was in post, like if you heard about a story of a coach that made a young kid cry, would you tend to be like, dang, this coach is tweaking, or would you be like, no, I mean that's the cost of participating in this type of sport or endeavor?
Yeah, for the most part, I would lean towards this is probably just the cost of entry to playing a sport and playing it at any type of competitive level. Um, I I guess I could potentially see myself being like, okay, could you just not curse? But I don't really know. I don't really know if that's like. I don't really know even if that is what would be the catalyst for the kids crying anyway. Because I don't have the issue with singular kids um being or
First, the
kids being
catalyst was
singled
the
out.
yelling, the tone in which
Yeah,
they
yeah,
cursed.
exactly. I don't have an issue with kids being singled out, but I think it's just the yelling in general and um you know just the general feeling of like shame for not being able to, or not even not being able to, but just not putting forth your best your best effort um in order to make the cut or in order to keep up with the rest of the team. That's probably more so the catalyst. So the cursing itself, um I don't know whether or not I like it, the moms like it, anybody likes it, is probably not the issue in particular. um and yeah, like another thing I'll say is I couldn't see myself being somebody um that would, I don't know. Now you know what? I'm not even gonna say that because there have been instances where in life in general where I've either worked with people or yeah, just in general known people that like we got to get something done and I can tell they're not putting their best foot forward. And if I was in more of an authoritative role, I could probably see myself coming off more abrasively, but with the ultimate goal of if it's the case of coaching kids, like um trying to get past the like the I don't know, that apathy you can have when if somebody's not really trying to push you, trying to get past that and get to the like, no, you need to work, you need to put in work if you want to be part of the team, or if you want to if you want to compete at any type of, if at any high level or something like that. So I can't even say that I wouldn't be have a similar have a similar demeanor or whatever, if I was in a similar position. So yeah, in general, like I think I
Okay,
I'd probably side with Marshawn Lynch more so in this. There's also kind of just a funny thought about how the husbands probably looked at this after the fact, like seeing their wives arguing with Marshawn Lynch. Be like, you know what that is? Like, what are you doing?
They definitely might not. I mean, sports moms, they're tapped in, so I think they understand the
I guess,
grasp of like
yeah,
who
yeah.
they're dealing with. But maybe from a male's perspective, there would be a different lens, which kind of leads me to the second part. I'll spin it back. It's kind of a sleeper thing in that clip that maybe some people wouldn't have noticed, but it's worth. You guys know what I'm talking about. What do we think of the aspect of? And obviously he knows he's being recorded, so there's that element there. But what do you think? What do we think of the aspect of? Hey, is your man here? Is your husband here? Basically trying to Euro step past even having a confrontation with this woman and being like, hey, let me speak to the man. I mean, I think there's nothing going to be too controversial. I think we're all understanding of that. I don't know. Is anyone super progressive and be like he was out of line to try to go directly to the man?
I get
No,
it
I
from
mean-
both perspectives, to be honest. Like, if the mother's there, watch the kid, like,
All right.
she's not gonna want to hear that, but certain things, I mean, just talk to the man of the household and go at it from that route. It is what it is.
Yeah. I'm surprised he said it.
Usually-
I am
like-
surprised.
I am very
he said it.
surprised.
We try
he
to
said
put
it's-
ourselves in these.
It's definitely not. PC.
I'm not.
Definitely
I'm not surprised because it's Marshawn Lynch. But yeah,
Yeah, he's definitely gonna get flat for it.
like in his
but-
mind, that's like the in his mind, that's like the best way to approach the situation because he knows it'll look bad if he's going back and forth with a woman. So even though both options are crazy,
That's another
let
way
me
of looking at
try.
it.
If I'm talking to a man, I won't look crazy on camera.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
I
don't
just
even
like to
think
try
it
to
was
put
like a
ourselves in this position, but
disrespect.
the crazy part is if, well, disrespect is relative.
Damn, that delay is just crazy.
If you're talking to someone and they say, "Hey, man, ain't it?"
Bro,
Yeah,
yeah,
talking
just
over each other, all type of dumb shit.
continue, because I just won't even interject.
No, I was gonna say, the sad part is, and again, it's maybe not be progressive, but if you are the husband in the situation, you probably do understand that, and like, if it sucks, because I mean, you could have a husband that is aligned with his wife, and they're like, okay, well, even I understand the passion you're putting into this, but I don't want you yelling at my kids like that. But I think most men probably would be accepting of if a woman, if their wife is having a conversation with a man and that guy says, "Hey, is your husband around? I want to talk to him." I don't think they would be offended by that.
Yeah. I mean, I would, if I was him, I probably would have tried to spin it, maybe be like, I want to talk to both parents or something. But,
The PC, but
yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
that's the strat.
No. That's what happens when you're progressive minded. Start thinking of the ways to dip and dodge out of being canceled. Although, what if they respond with, "Well, I'm here. I'm enough, aren't I?"
Yeah, there's some things like you can try your best, but
The moral of the story is, while there's obviously thresholds, like we can't have coaches out here because there have been some stories where coaches are like putting their hands on some of these young kids, and like that's obviously not acceptable. There's obviously a threshold to the level of discipline and tenacity that a person can instill on young kids, especially if they're youth kids. But I think in general, people do need to understand if you're working with somebody who has where you can understand like their level of dedication to something, like they're not gonna hold your kid's hand. There's probably going to be The tone's probably not gonna be pleasant. It's gonna be yelling. And speaking from somebody that like did wrestling back in the day, like getting cursed at is like the bare minimum. Like,
You
like,
go
again,
get
again,
cussed
I
out
you know,
by
I was at least at like teenage. Exactly, I was at least at teenage age, so maybe that's the difference. But like we're literally used to like coaches red in the face yelling their lungs out at us like for not doing a move correctly. Forget it seemed like we're not doing the drill. We could potentially like have our arm in the wrong place. The coach is yelling their literal brains out. Why are you doing that? Who taught you to do it? You're supposed to, like, all that. So I am a bit more used to it, but I can understand if you're not used to it, then it might be a bit of a culture shock. And sorry if that minor yelling that I do is unpleasant.
I was gonna say that's I think the first time I've heard you ever yell, even if it was just fake yelling. This delay is insane.
I'm on record. I can't
Delay
really.
is insane.
I
Like
heard
10
you.
seconds.
Yeah. In so much that we'll probably wrap it up sooner than later. What else is there? Was there like one other thing? Or two other thing?
One.
Yeah, there was just one other thing. Yeah, and that's the topic that we'll spend some time on. So I don't want to be doing topics I did want to get y'all input on when there's jacked up quality. Plus, we've already been in here for a bit over 3 hours. Probably because of the delays making it extend. Yeah, I apologize to y'all first and foremost. Definitely try to see what we can do to get around some of these things. I don't think it's just a one-for-one internet issue because the internet's like not bad.
I think
but
this is
once you get on Discord, just we're having issues. Fair enough. I was gonna try the online application, but I have the OBS audio like super connected to the app of Discord, so that's why I think it would cause. I would have to figure audio stuff out. But it's okay. We got content, and we're not gonna stop just because of one bad night. So I'm not too shooken up about it. But yeah, we'll come back to it another time. Regular Degla, even with the issues, thanks for y'all for coming on, doing this podcasting. You guys could be spending your Saturday evening doing anything else, but we're here podcasting, even though the quality might be a little sussy. And we thank any and all listeners. We super appreciate y'all support. And we hope by listening to us that you either gain your perspective or learn something new. Like the fact that in the future, dystopian future, you might not be able to wear that Chanel bag anymore. You might have to tuck that in on the gram. Or we just hope that you find it entertaining. But if none of that happened for you, all we have to say to you is be warmed and be filled.